Okay. I think I think I'm finally good here. Yeah, so I got a new laptop back in December, and this is the first live stream that I have done on it. And shall we say that the version of OBS that works on the current version of Mac OS is a little bit different than the one I last played around with. So I apologize it took me so long to get on here. I'm still going to give people just a few minutes to file in, though. Can everybody please let me know in the chat if you can hear me? Because getting the audio set up was actually the thing that made me late, and I'm still a little paranoid. So if you could please just sound off in the chat, let me know that you're out there. Let me know that you can hear me. That would be super. Thanks. In the meantime, I'm going to juggle some windows, try and make sure that I can see all the things I need to see here. Coolio. Wolf Forest Walker says, yes, they can hear me. Hallelujah. Ange Villevielle says, hello, Drex. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you're here too. Yay. Thank you both for sounding off there and letting me know that the audio is working. Silliest thing. So like I run my audio through my AirPods because they're right next to my mouth wherever I happen to move around in the room. And I set them up in OBS and was getting absolutely no signal. And I was really starting to panic about this. And literally all it took was turning up the volume on my laptop, and then all of a sudden it miraculously worked. I do not understand the intricacies of this, but hey, hashtag technology, right? Cool. I'm glad y'all are out there. Fisty says, yo, Drex, hope all is well. Yeah, by and large, all is well. It is a cold night here in DC. The snow is falling outside right now. Elroy NM says, hey, can hear you well. Fantastic. That is super helpful. I'm going to go ahead and get us started here in another 2 minutes because I have quite the lesson planned for you all tonight, and we still need to have time for Q&A. So I guess because I was like 5 minutes late starting up and everything, we'll go 5 minutes past the hour. So yeah, it is 7:08 where I am right now. We will go to probably 5 after 8 then, or maybe longer depending on how things go. Sometimes I get enough questions that it's worth going longer for. But Fisty says, switch to live chat, loud and clear, by the way. Outstanding. Yeah, I have live chat up. It's just that there's still a delay. Not only does it take a little bit of time for signal from me to reach you all, it also takes time for people to type out their responses and send them and for me to receive them back. So there's a little bit of a lag when I say a thing and I ask for a thing and the responses come in, even if I have the live chat open, which I do. Yeah, but let's quickly take a moment to thank the sponsor of Tech Tips, UltraPoi. I'm going to be using their Orb Poi LED contact poi tonight for this demonstration. And big fan of these. They are built like tanks, and a little bit of insider information. I have been told they are releasing the new version of this product, the Orb Poi Pro, in the next few months. I am expecting to receive an advanced copy, an advanced set of them within the next couple weeks here. So keep your eyes peeled. I'm definitely I will probably do an unboxing like over on Instagram when they get in, but thank you to UltraPoi for sponsoring Tech Tips and giving me a reason to do a live stream with you all out there. It's good to get your questions. It's good to get like kind of the live interactive version of this. So if y'all out there want to grab your own set of poi from UltraPoi, which they have options other than the Orb Poi, these are just the ones that I'm most a fan of right now. But if you want to pick up any poi from them, head on over to ultrapoi.com. You can use my promo code DrexFactor with a 0 instead of an O at checkout. That gets you a discount on your order, and it gets me a commission on the sale, which is lovely because it supports the channel. Everybody wins with this. So the way this is going to work out is I'm going to teach like a 30-minute lesson here. And then for the latter 30 minutes of this live stream, I will be taking questions from you all out there. So you can ask me any question that you want. It can be any topic at all. People have come in and asked me about my impressions of classical Greek philosophy before. There's all sorts of topics that come up in the course of this. I will also be happy to answer any of your poi and flow arts related questions too. Yeah, that'll be our latter 30 minutes. Our first 30 minutes is a lesson. Yeah, I can't really see the chat as it's coming in while I'm teaching the lesson, so I will go through the questions in the order that they came in afterwards. I'll scroll back through. And if anybody wants to get their question bumped up in the queue, y'all out there who are on the chat will see a little button that looks like a $ with in the middle of a square. That is the super chat function. You can use a super chat to get your question bumped up in the queue. It supports the channel. All that money comes straight to me. Think of it as tipping me for like answering your question if you so choose. It is much appreciated, y'all. Cool. So we are now at 12 past the hour, so I should really get this lesson going. So our lesson tonight is how to learn any poi trick, and I'm going to give you an example from my own work here because there's actually a poi trick that I've been working on for I think close to 2 years at this point. And I have used, I have several techniques that I use in my head to work my way through poi tricks that I see that I want to get down. And I'm going to use this particular trick as an example. I don't have the trick down yet, but I'll show you the techniques that I'm using to learn it. So whenever I see a trick, one of the first things that goes through my head is what are the fundamental skills that are necessary for getting this trick down? Frequently, what I'll do is I'll actually download a video of that trick onto my phone and go through it frame by frame to see the exact placement of the poi in relation to the body. Where's the right hand poi at any given time? Where's the left hand poi at any given time? And based upon what gets revealed in that kind of frame by frame analysis, I will figure out, okay, what are the skills that I need in order to get there? I'm going to moisturize right quickly because my hands are quite dry thanks to the very wintry weather we've been having in DC. Pay no mind. So whenever you look at a new poi trick, the first question that should always come into your mind is, okay, what is the first part of this that I already have under my belt? So like there's a workshop that I teach called Fundamentals of Tech, which really what that workshop is all about is teaching people how to learn poi tricks. And we learn Zan's diamond in the course of that class. And it starts with just doing a static spin, with just spinning the poi in front of you like this. And we work our way up from there. Again, it's starting with what is the first thing I know how to do and what's the next step that comes after that, right? So in my particular case, and I know that that sounds very esoteric, so I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to walk you through how this process has worked for me. So there's a trick that I saw a few years ago on Instagram that I will show you all that is a gunslinger trick. Yes, of course, all the tricks that I learned that take years to learn are freaking gunslinger tricks, of course. But let me show you that right quick. Let me switch over here. Check it. So this is a video by Jug Poi Duman, and this is from a couple years ago. And the trick in question is right here. You see how he's spinning his gunslinger poi in split time, same direction around flowers, and doing spiral wraps, top and bottom with them? That's what I'm shooting for here. Top and bottom, going around anti-spin with our spiral wraps here. Cool. So, what do I already know how to do of that? Well, let's switch over to full body and I'll walk you through it. All right. So, to start off with, I know how to do a basic gunslinger anti-spin flower. A gunslinger anti-spin flower, of course, is taking a gunslinger that is a thumb lead two beat and switching over to a pinky lead reverse two beat. So it's thumb lead forward, pinky lead reverse, thumb lead forward, pinky lead reverse. What turns this into an anti-spin flower is just me bringing my hand up and down with it. Yeah? Now, I don't normally do this with spiral wraps, but I can just do spiral wraps as my hand's kind of sitting around and everything, going straight back and forth. So, for instance, I could think of one side of this being going around like this. This is what each hand individually is doing in that video. Why is mine a little bit shaky here as compared to the guy whose video I was watching? Well, you'll note he was using poi that are evenly weighted. Mine are not. I'm using a set of contact poi, so the heads are vastly heavier than the handles. So I have an uphill battle to learn this same trick here. But again, it is, you do spiral wrap on bottom, spiral wrap on top, and you do a little spiral wrap top and bottom as you're doing that, yeah? Cool. As you can see, just doing it with the one hand is a bit of a challenge for me. So I have my work cut out for me. Again, I cannot do this trick, but where I started off with on the trick was to think, okay, so one of the first things that I'm going to need to learn how to do here, because I've never done this before, is to learn how to spin my poi in split time, same direction. I have never had a reason before in training my gunslingers to have my poi in split time, same direction like this. What do I mean by split time, same direction? Well, I've got one of these poi, well, the poi are both spinning counterclockwise relative to me, but I have them offset so that I should have one head up and one head down as I go back and forth between these two positions here, right? Okay, so as you can see, this is a skill that I learned how to do. What's the next skill? Well, I have to be able to go straight back and forth with spiral wraps. As you can see, I cannot do that with both hands at the same time. Why? Well, because I haven't tried it yet, right? So for this particular exercise, I'm at a point where I can do 2 reps, spiral wrap, 2 reps, spiral wrap, 2 reps, spiral wrap, 2 reps, spiral wrap. Okay, so I need to get that down to just 1 rep in order to have that trick. But here's the other thing going on there. I need to raise my hands up and down in the course of the move. Again, this is new information to me. So to drill that in the meantime, I've been doing both of my poi in together opposites, like this, going up and down. Why? Because that actually is a version of the trick that I can currently do, more or less, because it basically means that my hands are each doing the same thing at the same time. Now you might have noticed one hand is doing significantly better at this than the other, which told me that there was some work I needed to do with my left hand. So I've also been individually drilling my left hand to go back and forth in spiral wraps here in order to try and catch it up with the right hand. As I've been doing my practice on this regularly, believe it or not, I will do 20 reps of spiral wraps going back and forth with just my left hand. My right hand doesn't have to do this exercise. The entire point of it is to catch up my left hand to where my right hand already is. So as I've been practicing this, I first started by doing the split time, same direction drills. And originally, I couldn't go back and forth between the spiral wraps at all. I had to learn how to do that. That took months to go back and forth between those 2 spiral wraps just in itself. Nowadays, I can do it. It's not always terribly clean, but I can do it. And then, of course, once I could do it with both sides, it was a question of trying to get the reps down. So, for instance, for months, I did it as 3 reps, spiral wrap, 3 reps, spiral wrap, 3 reps, spiral wrap. And currently I'm at a point where I've got it down to, as I showed you before, 2 reps, spiral wrap, 2 reps, spiral wrap because it usually takes me 2 reps to get the tether where I want it to be. But I'm gonna have to get that down to 1 rep, yeah? So as you can see, there's 3 very, very key skills that I identified there that I did not have. The first, of course, is just the ability to do gunslingers in split time, same direction, and also to be able to do spiral wraps going back and forth while in split time, same direction. Another key element was to be able to bring the poi up and down in anti-spin as I'm going between spiral wrap positions. And of course, to catch my left hand's capabilities for doing these spiral wraps up with my right hands. So I just drill those spiral wraps by themselves. How did I get here? In all honesty, I started with the thing that I knew that I didn't know how to do, if that makes sense. I started with the known unknowns. And once I started getting a hang of the known unknowns, I started looking for other trouble spots. So like, as I was doing the split time, same direction spiral wraps back and forth, it quickly became clear that my left hand needed work. That's when I started drilling my left hand just by itself. Now, most days I can get a clean 20 reps out of just doing the left hand alone. And of course, training the two of them together is a whole thing in itself. But then at a certain point, it's just like, yeah, let's actually try to do the full move here and see what happens. And it was an unmitigated, sloppy disaster, just like the version. Actually, that's not too far off. It's gonna be the first time I get this on camera. That would be hilarious. Not quite. It's not quite there, but we're getting there. Anyway, so once I just like tried it for the heck of it, I realized that the up and down motion was a challenge. So because I can't do the up and down motion in split time, same direction just yet, I went for the next best thing, which was doing it in together opposite. I've been able to do gunslingers in together opposite for ages now. So doing the spiral wraps this way was a pretty low threshold to entry. See, I took the thing, I took the skill and I went back to the place where I last knew I could do the skill and then worked from there, yeah? So another example I'll show you is how I build up Zan's diamond in my fundamentals of tech class. So when doing Zan's diamond, I guarantee anybody in the class can at the very least spin the poi around their hand. Yeah? Now, Zan's diamond is specifically made by putting together straight segments where you're moving your hand along a kind of a 4-pointed pattern, going along diagonals and vertical and horizontal lines, right? So that means that we then have to train the hand to go along these straight lines. So we start off by just having the hand bouncing up and down as the poi goes around it. It's a linear extension. We then try this on a diagonal. Then we do it on a horizontal, which just involves dragging the poi one way and popping it over the top of the hand going the other way. And then we do the other diagonal, right? Okay, so we have all these linear extensions. We're now able to get the hand moving straight back and forth as the poi goes around it. So then we try and construct a simple shape. Usually the one I have people start on is doing a square. That is a 4-petal anti-spin flower in box mode. So I train them to think up, right, down, left, up, right, down, left. As an extra kind of challenge to myself, I usually teach this class mirrored. So I'm doing everything with my left hand, which is my non-dominant hand, which is great cross-training for me. So once people are able to do the square, I teach them how to do a triangle. Go up, left, right, up, left, right, up, left, right. We then turn that triangle into an arrow. So we go up, down, up, left, right, up, down, up, left, right. We then try a triangle pointed down. So we go right, left, down, up, down, right, left, down, up, down. And then we work to put the two together. So we start with the hand just bouncing up and down, and we do the top side going left, right, up. We go to bouncing along that line, And off the bottom, we go right, left, down, and we go back to bouncing, left, right, up, bouncing, right, left, down. And then we try and decrease the number of reps in between until we can just go straight through the pattern. And guess what? That's Zan's diamond, but we built up to it incrementally. That's the point, is to find the nearest thing that you already know how to do and figure out what tweak do you need to add to it in order to get to the next step. Yeah? Let me quickly take a look at how I'm doing on time here. Cool, I'm doing great. Mortikal says, wow, you hold it a lot closer to the poi head than I'd assume. I've failed to get gunslingers for a while, but I've been holding it in the center of the tether. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of this might not be very clear on video, but most of my grip here is actually just me pinching the poi pretty near to the head. In order to do gunslingers with contact poi, you kind of have to get what I call the death grip on the tether. That is, you have to grip it so tightly that as you're spinning, you see how if I loosen my grip a little bit, the head starts to come out and it winds up back to its regular grip. You have to get really, really good at keeping that death grip there. And part of what I like about this is that even though the grip is actually between my index finger and my thumb, I can use the pinky end of my poi to help, or rather, I can use my pinky and the butt of my palm to try and keep the pinky end of the poi moving. It helps me direct its momentum if I have it, if these two fingers are controlling the grip, I have this finger available to use to keep the pinky end going, which is really, really, really helpful, especially in cases where you're switching grips right here, because I have to use my pinky to help guide the pinky end through this, especially if I'm switching direction, because that pinky end has so much less mass than the thumb end that it just tends to go flying if you're not careful. This is one of the biggest challenges in doing those spiral wraps back and forth, is you have to pilot both ends of the poi as they're coming out of those spiral wraps, and it's hard. Like I said, I've been working on this trick now for at least a year and a half, probably close to 2 at this point, and it's tough. It's just really, really tough. And as you can see, there's a lot of very basic skills that have to go into it. So these are 2 practical examples of tricks that you can get. And if anybody wants to, you can, I'm not sure if this would work on the live stream, but somebody could just throw a trick into the chat and I could just break it down live for everybody and take you through it step by step, or at least the steps that I can think of. So if anybody's got a trick in mind, you can definitely you can definitely throw it in there. And I've got 5 minutes before we switch over to doing the Q&A, but I'd be happy to break that down. But yeah, overall tips: find the most basic part of the trick you want to learn that you can already do, and figure out what tweaks you need to do to it to get to the next stop. Once you have a few of the basic skills under your belt, look for the skills that are still wanting. Once you get through the known unknowns, figure out what the unknown unknowns were, and use that to direct your learning and your drilling going forwards. And check back often, because sometimes you will not uncover a fundamental skill that you need in order to get to the next step until you're relatively comfortable with it. And then there will be a point where you're like, oh, there was this other thing I need to learn how to do too, right? And hopefully both of these examples show that off in exemplary fashion. But yeah, always, always, always start by breaking a trick down to the closest fundamental skill that you already have in your toolbox and work from there. Um, Not only will this mean that you're going to be a lot cleaner when you finally get down the trick because you've gotten all the fundamental skills that lead up to it, but also you're going to spare yourself a lot of frustration because like that gives you so many individual moments of breakthroughs getting from point A to point B. Like I know a lot of people that will just like chase the trick in itself and they'll spend so much time being frustrated because they're basically skipping over all of the like basic skills that are part of it. And so when they do finally get the trick, it looks kind of sloppy. And unfortunately, there's an easy like you can have a lot more points in getting there where you have a moment of accomplishment that feels really good when you get down one of these fundamental steps and you move on to the next one and then they all come together to finally get the trick, and it means that like you'll have less frustration overall when you finally get to drilling down the final steps of that trick. I'm also going to do this just one more time because I wonder if wouldn't it be? Oh, I'm doing it in spin there. That would be why. Oop. I had a little bit of luck with this earlier, and I'm going to laugh if the first time I have reps of this that truly connect is on a live stream that I opened up by saying, I don't know how to do this trick yet. But as you can see, whew, it's ugly, but pieces are certainly there. Ah. Oh, damn, I need to get the gunslinger down. But I think you already have video on that. I have several videos on that. I have several videos on getting gunslingers down. Um, was this helpful? I know that I'm using a really advanced example here, but I'm hoping in showing you how I think about breaking down tricks, it'll help you all think about how you break down tricks too. Yeah? All right. I don't know how many of y'all are alive out there, but I think at this point, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Q&A. So go ahead and start sending in those questions for me, dear friends, for me to answer. Once again, props to, pun not intended, but I'm going to run with it anyway. Props to UltraPoi for sponsoring Tech Tips and giving me a reason to teach you all a lesson like this. To grab a set of these OrbPoi LED contact poi or any other set of poi that they sell, go over to ultrapoi.com, use the promo code DrexFactor with a 0 instead of an O at checkout. That gets you a discount on your order and it helps out the channel so everybody wins. Start getting those questions in. I'm happy to answer. Well, depending on what the question is, if I have an answer, I am happy to give. Oh, yay. Hi there, Kurt Hobbs. Hey, Drex, I have a question, but it's a bit long, so here's a tip. Oh, yay. You could break down the question in multiple blocks in the chat if you want to, and I will still prioritize you first, my friend. Everybody else, Kurt just gave me a wonderful super chat there. If you would like to do the same, I would certainly appreciate it. You can do that by hitting that little button that looks like a $sign in the chat, because that helps out the channel, which makes me a happy and fed Drex. Yay. Ange says, it's crystal clear, boss. Yay! And Leaferg says, we are here. Thanks for the tech tip. You are so welcome. You are so very welcome. Yeah, I definitely like when I got to the end of that, I'm just like, I'm not like, because here's the thing is sometimes I feel like when you give people like kind of a top-down view of things where you're just kind of like, oh yeah, you do this first and this first and this first. There's like the gap between the theory and the application of it. So I wanted to show you all an application of it. And then of course, like most of the way through that, I suddenly was just like, this is a super advanced trick. I really hope the dots connect out there. So I'm glad to hear that they seem to have connected. Wolf Forest Walker says, I still haven't figured out how to do watermills and windmills. I started learning at the beginning of the pandemic and use it for self-care. I'm good at anything with one hand, but not two. Yeah, getting your two hands to work together is super difficult. I will also say that it's like super awesome for your brain. There's no science behind this, but as in nobody's actually tested this yet. But I have a hypothesis that spinning poi, just like juggling, will increase the size of the corpus callosum. That is the structure that ties together the two sides of the brain. Larger corpus callosums are very good for a lot of cognitive functions. You also find a big corpus callosum in musicians because they usually have to coordinate what's going on with their two hands. And actually, now that I think about it, that might be an advantage I had when I first started learning poi, because I had been playing guitar for a decade at that point. So, that's a possibility. Water mills and windmills. So, I'm going to guess that what you're actually having trouble with there is maintaining split time, same direction, which split time is hard, especially when you're first getting started out. I did do an entire video on training split time, same direction, but I will go ahead and give you the cliff notes right now if you would like. And again, friends, get in those questions. I want them. I want them. So like doing split time, same direction, it's really intuitive for some people. It's not for others. The way I think of this is almost like doing a drum beat. I think of it as like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I've also described it to people as like almost walking around with the poi, that it's like right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. And that like you just think of the poi as kind of being extensions of your feet as you're walking. Right, left, right, left, as you're kind of walking around. Mirrors are also super helpful for training split time, same direction. Check yourself in the mirror and see if you can train yourself to find moments where you're getting this nice split between the two poi. And also just to put this out there, split time is something that you're going to be drilling as long as you spin poi. Like I've been spinning poi now for close to 15 years, and like earlier today, I found a moment where I was working on a trick and I was having a hard time maintaining split time at this very one specific part. And I found myself having to drill it again. It happens to the best of us. So try doing it off the count. Try walking around. See if either of those concepts help you out. Yeah? Best of luck there, friend. And do check out the video that I did on training split time, same direction, because it goes into great detail. And if you're up for it, if you're up for it, there's a way to train using a metronome that I think is like will just grind it into your brain for sure. Cool. Breaking down how you break it down for me helped a lot. Good. I'm glad to hear that, Fisty. Kurt Hobbs. When I spin by myself, I move my body a lot, with spins and level changes, etc. Good. But whenever I flow in front of other people, I suddenly feel very self-conscious and turn into a tech tree. I feel you, my friend. Have you experienced this, and do you have any tips for overcoming this? Woof. So kind of like I also tend to get nervous in front of people, but it's one of those things that I kind of so this is a weird way of describing this, but Einstein's equation E equals mc squared, like that matter and energy are just like different sides of the same equation. So I tend to think of like human energy as being the same way, that like, you know, when you perform for people, you're putting a massive amount of energy out to the audience. And the way I think of it is I just convert the nervous energy that I feel into that. It's like you can think of the nervous energy as being like a battery that you can then use to power a antenna and set and broadcast it out to your audience. That is how I make it work for me. Now, all that said, on a more practical level, I think if this is a way that you're struggling, I might suggest writing out a few bits of choreography for yourself. If you get in a place where you're nervous or kind of lost, like have something that you have just drilled to no end that you know gets your feet moving and pull that out. Like just having that to go to when your brain like kind of starts freezing up, can help you get moving. And once you start breaking down those boundaries, it might help you get from point A to point B and actually be able to flow with all that stuff. That would be my recommendation. So give that a try and let me know how it works for you. Yeah, cool. Um, and I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Via Veal, I think. So if poi is truly considered cultural appropriation by the people who traditionally use them, would you consider stop doing poi? Is the fact that loving poi more important than respecting their culture? I haven't made up my mind yet. I hope that my English is correct, though. So you're proceeding from an assumption that we don't know. Um, we currently have no idea if Maori people as a whole consider Westerners spinning poi to be cultural appropriation. The whole reason I made that video was to open up that conversation. And the feedback that I have gotten thus far from Maori people that have seen that video is that there isn't currently a consensus around it. That there may be some individual Maori people that like do kind of feel a little uncomfortable with Westerners doing it, and others that don't. Um, like, I think we're a long way from having an answer on that one. If there were a bunch of Maori people that came to me and asked me to stop spinning poi, I think that a really interesting conversation would come out of that. I don't know that somebody would like. Again, the core of that is making an assumption about other people that are not in this conversation currently, and so I don't think it would be appropriate to kind of project that and give you like a kind of flow chart of decisions that I would make around that. Um, the great stuff that's been happening as a result of making that video is I have been pointed to a couple resources now on Maori culture and Maori poi spinning that like I'm educating myself about a lot of things that I didn't know before about how poi is seen in Maori culture, which I watched a fantastic video that was sent to me today about three male poi spinners that are that do the traditional style, um, which is interesting because I didn't realize that there was like a taboo against Maori men spinning poi, but I guess there is, which is really really fascinating to me. And yeah, I'm in the process of learning, and I hope to learn much more in the coming months, years, etc. And also too, there's a big part of me now that wants to learn more about the traditional Maori style because as I've been watching more, like, so there's a really really interesting thing that popped up to me just this past week, reviewing some footage of myself spinning poi in a dance studio, and that is Western style poi spinning is very flat and two dimensional. And I think a big part of that is just that it's sprung up around people that were coming up with tricks that looked good on video. Video is very flat, especially if the video camera does not move. So that created selective pressures for us to create a style of poi spinning that looks really, really good from one perspective. But the moment you have it at an angle, a lot of the intricacies of it get lost. And one of the fascinating things I've been picking up from watching more videos of Maori poi spinners is that the style of poi that Maori people do looks good from multiple angles. Like it is something that's designed for a performance environment that is very different than a lot of what we've been posting online on Instagram or YouTube in the past decade. Um, so I think there's a lot to learn there. There's a lot to appreciate. I want to learn some of these fundamentals now because I think it's going to make me a better poi spinner in the long run. And as for the cultural conversation, like I think we're still in the early stages of it. Um, but yeah, I don't think we should assume that people are going to think that it's cultural appropriation. I think it's most like because here's the thing. part of the problem with cultural appropriation is that it is people from one culture assuming that they can take something from another culture and they don't ask the people there. And when we come into this conversation saying, okay, well, if Maori people say it's cultural appropriation and we can't spend poi anymore, da 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 da, it's the same problem. It's still the thing of, well, you went straight there without talking to any Maori people. When did they get to like have a voice in this conversation? So um, I think that it's premature to walk down that road. I think the first step is to invite people to talk, to see what they have to say, to see how they feel about all of this. And then we can start to look at, okay, what can we do to make you feel appreciated? What can we do to make you feel like we are listening? Like, this is that culturally what you do is important, and we recognize it as the antecedent to what we do. Um, which is part of the reason that I wrote up the cultural acknowledgement that's now in all of my poi videos. Um, so yeah, let's let's invite people to talk, see what they have to say. Let's not assume they're going to go one way or another. Let's listen. That's the whole point. Yeah. So yeah, I totally grok your question, but I think it's the wrong question. I think it's not a question of, well, what if they say this or what if they say that? I think the real answer is, let's see what they have to say. Yeah, cool. Alonzo, sorry, that was such a long answer there. I knew that I was pretty sure that this was going to come up on this live stream, though. And you know what? Thank you for asking, because I know that making that video and opening up that conversation made a lot of people nervous, and I didn't want to make people nervous. I wanted to come at this from a position where, like, I was trying to open a dialogue, and a lot of people inserted a lot of thoughts into that I didn't really intend, and in my mind tells me more about what they're thinking than what I'm thinking. But I totally recognize that there's an anxiety there, and that anxiety is real. But we should also be careful to interrogate that anxiety, kind of realize where it's coming from, and ask whether there's a foundation for it or whether it's us projecting our own fears into that conversation. Because I'm willing to bet you, more often than not, it's the latter. Cool. Alonzo Macias says, you come to Mexico this year? Maybe. I do want to travel this year. I definitely do. Mexico could be one spot. I've talked about doing the UK in the past too, and I'm still interested in doing that. Really, it comes down to where COVID is. Like, I don't feel like in good conscience I can go anywhere in the world right now and bring together a dozen people inside of an enclosed space and teach them poi. I feel like that would be irresponsible on my part. So we're at the tail end of a major Omicron outbreak here in DC. Even I got it, and I've been so careful these past 2 years. So if I see the numbers going down in Mexico by the second quarter, sure, I'd be down to do that. I'm going to skip ahead here because Fisty says, "Did you say grok?" Yes, I absolutely said grok. Yes, I am. I am a nerd and a half, and I've read Stranger in a Strange Land. I read that in middle school, and it definitely rocked my world. Um, Yeah. So Wolf Force Walker is saying, "Cool. I watch all your vids, and I have the poi you're using now, and they're awesome. Thanks." Yes, aren't they though? I'm such a big fan of these, and also apparently I forgot to charge these because one of these handles is starting to go a little low on me. So I hope it makes it through the broadcast here. Yeah, no, these are awesome. These are my workhorse LED contact poi. I take these around everywhere with me, and I have beaten the crap out of these poi in the like 3 or 4 years that I've had them, and they have, it's one of those things that the old ultra knobs, like the chips were really delicate, and that was something I really didn't like about them. But this the revision of the chips, because the heads have the same chips as as the handles do. The next version of the Orb do not. There's a different chip in the heads, but yeah, these chips take such a licking from me. You would not believe it. Um, Big fan. Lieferberg says that cultural video is great. Thank you. I worked so hard on that. I'm glad you appreciate it. I'm glad you appreciate it because, yeah, that was whole heck of a lot of work went into that. And like the cultural acknowledgement, I think I went through at least 5 drafts of that before I came up with something that I was willing to put in that video. I stressed out so hard about making that video. So I'm glad to hear it was received well. Kurt Hobbs, I think cultural appropriation can be separated into toxic and non-toxic. If you truly respect and appreciate something from another culture, you should be able to enjoy it. Yeah, I think it's a question of whether the culture consents to it. Which, I mean, we can definitely make the argument that at the core of toxicity is not respecting consent in that way. Um, so yeah, I would agree with that in that case. Um, yeah, I think it's a question of learning about where the stuff that we do came from and showing respect to the people who originated it. You know, it's the wildest thing because for years I've had people getting up in my business of like, oh, well, you didn't properly credit X or Y in your video. That person invented this trick. And it's like, whenever I show off a trick, I always credit whoever I learned it from. Sometimes the people I learned tricks from tell me who they got it from, and sometimes they don't. Whenever I have that information, I credit the person. But like the moment I credit Maori people as the originators of poi, like all of the same people are up in arms. It's just like it's the exact same idea. We're just reaching back a little bit further there, friends, you know? So yeah, I find that tremendously ironic and more than a little frustrating if I'm going to be real. But here we are. Fisty agreed. I have dreadlocks. I am white, but it's more the thought behind it. I mean, um, yeah, I mean, um, I tried to put my hair in dreadlocks once, and my hair is not wavy enough to do it like on its own, and I didn't want to put in the work to do it the other way. I have lots of friends that have them, and I have friends that have removed them lately to show respect, which I think is really cool. Um, yeah, again, it's a conversation. How do your friends feel about this? Where like how do those pieces line up? Do they feel like you're showing respect for where you got them from? It never hurts to ask, you know. Um, the conversation starts celebration of the culture. Yes, I agree. Like to Grok from Stranger in Strange Land. Yes. Ange says, thanks for your answer, Drex, and thanks for all your dedication in the flow arts. You explore a lot of subjects that I'm really curious about. I send you some smiles and good vibes from France. Well, merci beaucoup. I never learned how to speak French, so I know that that is not how it's actually pronounced. But or in a language that I do know how it's pronounced, Kitos. That's Finnish. I'm a Finn, or Finnish American, I probably should say. So yes, thank you for listening. Fisty, for some reason that makes me happy. I'm glad to hear it. I'm really glad to hear it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I absolutely loved reading that book. My opinions on it have changed a little bit over time. Like, Heinlein is such an interesting author because, like, you definitely see some of the origins of the free love movement in his writing. There's some stuff in that book that has not aged well. Like, you know, there's some bits in there that are pretty sexist. And of course, like, Heinlein was kind of notorious for like seeing human life as not necessarily that valuable. Like that individual human life was not that valuable. Like there's multiple points in Stranger in a Strange Land when Valentine Michael, I think his name is Valentine Michael Smith, when Val literally just makes somebody disappear, and it's like not treated as that big a deal. It's just like, oh yeah, sometimes to make an omelet you got to break a few eggs. I That was some stuff that I was kind of like, what at the time, and I think even now as I've aged, I'm even more just like, that's a lot, my dude. Um, but there's still a lot of ideas in that novel that I find really, really fascinating, and the idea of like being so curious about something that you want to drink of it is still one that I find fascinating. So I still use grok in conversation all the time. Love the word. Um, yeah. I've read a few other Heinlein books too. He was an interesting guy, shall we say. Interesting guy. Cool. Um, Christina Foster, The Fountain? No, Stranger in a Strange Land. That's the book that's from. Stranger in a Strange Land. Which I read that, oh no, not in middle school, in high school. I read that going into like, what, I don't even remember what grade I was in. I think I read it when I was like 14 or 15, which 14 or 15-year-old boy reading that is like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. So, yeah, it definitely rocked my world as a teenager. I might want to go back and reread it here sometime soon because there's definitely a lot in there that was really influential to me as a teenager, and I'm kind of curious how some of it has aged. So we've got just under 10 minutes left in the Q&A session here. So keep those questions coming. Keep those questions coming. Happy to answer anything on your all's mind about flow arts, about poi, about books, philosophy, what have you. And if you want any kind of clarification on stuff that I have already mentioned, or you have a trick that you're having a hard time with, let me know as well. And I'll do my best to help you all out there, yeah? So keep those questions coming. Keep those questions coming. I know that this, like, I'm sorry that the live chat was late. This is supposed to happen on the third Friday of every month. But the month really got away from me, and yeah, this was just kind of my last opportunity to get it out there. Or actually, maybe I should ask a question then. I'm kind of curious. I asked this in my video on the new year for 2022. What are your flow goals for 2022? What do you want to accomplish? Is there a trick you want to learn? Do you want to start performing? You want to start posting videos on the internet? Yeah, let me know. I'm kind of curious because partially I am really I'm still figuring out a lot about what my direction is going to be this year. So I would love to hear about ways in which I can help you all out with your goals. Wolf Force Walker says, "What do you think the most important skill to drill is?" What a great question. I'm going to give you an answer on the proviso that I'm probably going to change my mind at some date in the future, but this would be my answer to that. So I think the most important skill to drill in poi is what I refer to as beat control. That is, you can control when you do a beat with the poi and when you don't. One of the things I think we do wrong when we first teach people poi, and there will be a video coming out on this in the next few weeks, is that we teach them that it's all about keeping the poi going. And so spinning the poi almost becomes like an unconscious tick that a lot of people have. And so when you switch over to doing things like flowers, it becomes this thing that as you move your hand around, you're like keeping the nervous tick going and everything. When in order to really have control of your flowers, you have to consciously be able to decide when you're going to spin the poi and when you're not. This is part of the reason why I teach in-spin flowers in such a way that it starts with an extension and then you pause to do petals at any given location. But this is also important for things like, say, learning hybrids, where you want to be really, really careful about how many beats you're sticking at each end of your body. Um, and it has relevance too for everything from like learning how to do body tracers, where again, you want to decide exactly how many beats you're going to do in each spot before you move around to the next spot. And of course, the ability to switch from doing beats to doing extensions like this. That I think is probably one of the most important skills that, like, the way we traditionally teach poi, people have to unlearn something really important in order to get there. And when once you go towards the dark side, forever will it dominate your destiny. Now, so yeah, I think beat control is one of those things that's really, really, really important to work on. And, honestly, I'm still working on it to this day, deciding when there's going to be a beat and when there's not. Burger Sama says, anti-Brit gunslingers, already been covered? Anti-Brit gunslingers, dear friend. Oh my goodness, one of my favorite things ever. Yeah, so first you got to get down your gunslinger flowers, and then you can work on teaming them up with the trick of your choice, whether it be isolations or static spins, like so. Which there's more that goes into that than I can possibly cover in the time that we've got left. I do have a video on that, so go check that out. Left hand pinky lead is my weakness. Oh goodness, you're doing it on the opposite side of the body that I do. Wow. Oh wow, that is indeed going to be a challenge, friend. Yeah, God. I'm trying to remember how I got that down with my right hand. So, like, I think you're referring to this right here, the isolation versus six pedal, yeah? So what makes this work? This is essentially just a 2-beat pinky lead. And what you're doing is you're picking your hand up as you're initiating the movement of the pinky end from your front side to your back side. It's so weird. I have the hardest time doing it without an isolation. Yeah, there we go. So I think the way I think of this is that, like, the wrist movement is very strange. What I'm doing is like cranking my pinky end really, really hard. It's almost like I'm trying to reach under it in order to get that top part of it. The bottom part of it feels a lot easier to me. Like, once I get that pinky end up in the air, gravity helps me out on the bottom. But yeah, getting it up in the first place is quite the challenge. And as you'll see, if I do this from the side here, the planes, from my perspective, are an absolute mess. And again, it's one of those things that this is one of those tricks that you're performing in such a way that it looks super good from exactly one angle. But if you try it from any other angle, it looks a mess. Yeah, so it's really about pushing that pinky end up as you're working with the other hand. I don't know if I've ever... Oh, God. Oh, that's awful. Whew. I need to drill that on my left side. Thanks for that challenge. I'm going to work on that. Stephen Martin says, I got a clip of a Ronin performance that I would really like clarification on a trick he's doing because I would love to learn it. Okay. I don't know how I would help you out on this particular live stream, but maybe after I wrap it up, leave a comment with a link to the video and, if possible, a timestamp of where the trick is, and I'll take a look at it and see if I can help you out there. Yeah. Fisty, I really want to start. Oh, these are goals. People are shooting me their goals now. Okay, cool. I'm all caught up. Fisty, I really want to start making videos, but I'm really bad at editing. Guessing practice makes perfect, though. It does indeed. Like, so here's the thing. The first poi trick you ever did, you weren't particularly good either. You have to think of it like that. You didn't, like, how many poi tricks did you do before you start to feel comfortable with it? Making videos is no different. You're going to have to get out there and try it, see what happens, and learn from things that have worked well and things that didn't. That's the only way to do it. Christina Foster says, I've only been spinning for about 3 months. Transitions! 2 exclamation marks. Between tricks! 2 exclamations. Should I be concerned with that at this point? Yeah. I mean, Truth be told, I actually try and start people doing transitions between tricks within their first couple lessons, simply because it was such a stumbling block in my own head when I started learning how to do transitions. Like, and I feel like everybody goes through this point where they think of the tricks as almost being like little boxes that have been left in a room, and they're totally unconnected from each other. They're just like sitting out there in different areas. And when they go to spin their poi, they'll hang out at one box and do a particular trick for a few reps, and then they'll stop and they'll jump to another box, do another trick. And you watch people that are beginners spinning this way, and what you see are people that will do a trick for a few reps and then stop, another trick for a few reps and then stop. And it doesn't have to be that way. I think that, the sooner we get people realizing that their tricks fit together like Lego blocks, the better. So this is part of. So if you checked out my series on learning poi during the COVID-19 quarantine, which there will be a course coming a little bit later on this year that covers a lot of the same ground. Um, what you'll see is that I have a method of teaching this that focuses specifically on getting tricks in as early as possible that interlock like those Lego bricks, to start teaching people how to transition back and forth between them, because I think that that's really important. There's absolutely no reason at 3 months that you shouldn't be working on transitions. I think you ought to be working on transitions basically straight out the gate. But that is a particular way that I teach poi, and I try to give people a kind of learning ladder, a series of tricks that has that express goal in mind. So check out the series that I did for learning poi during the COVID-19 pandemic, and see if it helps you out in that regard, because it was planned out specifically for that purpose. Yeah. Burger Sama, those are awesome. Yay, thanks. That was helpful. Glad to hear it. Stefan Martin's leaving comment now. Excellent. And Sokar Seba, howdy. Hope you're doing well. Yes, I am. Just barely noticed you went live, which is funny because I think we're winding down at this point. I've been going for a little over an hour. But screw it. Let's do 2 more minutes. Anybody else wants to throw in a goal for this year and or a final question for me to answer before I sign off here? I'm game for it. Go ahead and drop those into the chat. I'm going to do a hard stop at 10 after the hour. While y'all are working on typing that stuff in, once again, thank you to UltraPoi for sponsoring Tech Tips. You can grab a set of their poi over at ultrapoi.com. Use the promo code DrexFactor with a 0 instead of an O at checkout. That gets you a discount on your poi, helps out the channel. Everybody wins. Please do it, because it helps me eat, which I appreciate. I literally paid my cell phone bill today with money that I had earned from UltraPoi commissions. So yes, please help me pay my cell phone bill. It's very, very helpful. And thanks, UltraPoi, for giving me an excuse to do these live streams every month. But yeah, we got 1 minute left. So if anybody's got a question they want to get in under the wire, now's the time to do it. Also going to give a quick shout out to my supporters on Patreon and friends of the channel. Dark Monk, Flowfests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spinballs, and UltraPoi. Big thanks to the Flow patrons of the channel, and also the wonderful people that I usually list down in the descriptions of my videos. Sorry, still under friends of the channel, they're the non-business friends of the channel, Johnny Howard, Leigh Machinsky, and now Pekka Pekkonen, who it's great to have another Finn in the house. Yay. Sokar Seba, did you ever get any solid leads from your Maori appropriation video? I did. I absolutely did. I got exactly what I was hoping for. I got responses from a few different Maori people, and one of them now invited me to a Facebook group of Maori people that spin poi to begin to learn more about the traditional version of the art, and has been sending me some links too. So it was exactly what I was hoping for. and it's wonderful. I am so grateful that it went down that way, for sure. Yeah. Sean Brockett says, thanks for everything you do. Well, you're so welcome. Cool. We are at 10 past the hour, my friends. So I am going to go ahead and shut things down here so I can go enjoy the rest of my Friday evening. Thank you to all of you that tuned in, that asked me your wonderful, wonderful questions. And I will be back next month. It'll be the third Friday of the month. And yeah, I definitely got some great ideas listening to you all out there. So have yourselves a great night. Have yourselves a great weekend. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, and specifically if you live on the East Coast of the United States, stay warm because it's really cold out there. And I will see y'all again soon. Yeah? Cool. Thanks for watching.